Let's make this fleeting moment last forever. So tell me what you're waiting for.
We're Mike and Betsy. Over the past year, we quit our jobs, sold everything, and bought a sailboat to explore the world with our 15-year-old daughter, Ellie. Our 44-foot sailboat named Rogue Fun is our floating home. In our last episode, we navigated down the Intracoastal Waterway from South Carolina to Florida. Join us in this episode as we spend time exploring historic St. Augustine and find out why this ended up being our home for longer than we intended. "55 years before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, the site of St. Augustine was taken by the Spanish in 1565, making Florida part of the Spanish Empire. As soon as we dropped anchor, we took our first dinghy ride into St. Augustine to explore. St. Augustine. Where's Dad? There he's behind us, huh? Okay. Past all the boats. Rogue Fun is
over there,
way in the distance.
I want to go on the dinghy again.
We learned that St. Augustine has a complicated history. In 1565, the Spanish explorer Pedro Menendez de Aviles took the Native American settlement of Saloy and founded St. Augustine. Spain then controlled St. Augustine for the next 200 years. St. Augustine is the oldest European continuously occupied city in the United States. Mike was a history major in college, and Ellie is taking geography, so we thought a visit to the Castillo de San Marcos fort was in order. Castillo de San Marcos was built in 1672, making it the oldest stone fortress in the U.S. The six-sided structure was built to protect St. Augustine from attack by sea. The walls are 30 feet high and up to 14 feet thick at the base. The fort is completely enclosed and has no vulnerable areas.
The walls are made of coquina stone, which are tiny old shells that hardened into porous limestone.
Looks like it's more of a lookout than a gun emplacement.
Soon after the fort was built, the walls were tested by incoming cannonballs. Instead of shattering, the coquina walls compressed and absorbed the shock. Over time, the fort has been controlled by Spain, Britain, Spain again, the United States, the Confederate States, and finally the United States again. In all those years, the fort was never conquered in battle. The fort had tidal toilets. The pits naturally flushed out 2 times a day by the outgoing tides.
Inside the Castillo.
One of the oldest rooms in the fort is called the powder room. This room was originally supposed to store gunpowder, but they found it to be too damp, so it was then sealed closed. Over 100 years later, when they opened the seal, they found bones. This inspired a local myth that lovers were buried alive inside.
Kind of cool looking. Creepy.
In the 1800s, the fort was used to hold Native American prisoners of war. Many of the captives ultimately died in the fort. In 1924, Castillo de San Marcos was declared a national monument and flies the flag of the House of Burgundy to honor its Spanish history.
After our tour, we decided to have lunch at the oldest pub in the oldest city. Here's our tavern. Wow, this place is busy, huh? I ate the greasiest, best mushroom and Swiss burger, and Mike had a chili cheese brat in honor of Wisconsin. On our way back to the boat, Ellie got dinghy driving lessons.
Now pull it toward yourself, watch where we go. And all it does is it takes a little memory. So push toward me, push toward me. There we go, now straighten it out. Well, straighten it out down the road that way.
Our anchorage was right across from the fort, so we always had a great view. After a quick stay at a marina to do laundry and be closer to groceries, we were looking forward to returning to our anchorage in St. Augustine. Anytime we travel north or south, we have to time it properly so we can pass through the drawbridge that opens every half hour. This Bridge of Lions is an iconic part of the city's view. It gets its name from the two marble lions guarding the St. Augustine side of the bridge. It's a beautiful bridge, day and night. Now that we're anchored again, we decided to take the dinghy and explore the nearby beaches.
Where are we going, Ellie?
How bad this is.
Woo, I got all wet.
I hope we got to all 6 warmer continents.
Yeah.
The tides here change by about 6 feet. At high tide, this area is just shallow water, but since it's low tide, we can walk around and explore.
Oh, it's alive. There's something in it living, so we should leave that one.
Oh, okay.
I will put it wherever you want.
Low tide revealed many big oyster beds. Oyster reefs are important in the health of estuaries, which are tidal mouths of large rivers. Oyster reefs help with eroding coastlines, and they filter water, removing nitrogen. A single oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water daily, and they're also sharp, so we had to be very careful with each step. After we got back, Mike went to close the raw water intake valve. Its job is to allow seawater to cool the engine when it's running. But the handle broke off. Luckily, the valve was in the open position, so we could still run the engine. But if we would have an emergency leak in that hose, we'd have no way to turn it off. This is a necessary and relatively simple repair, but we would have to haul Rogue Fun out of the water to do it. We can't travel further south without fixing it. All in all, St. Augustine is a great place to be stuck while we wait to get into a marina. Might as well enjoy the sunset.
What?
Hey.
Somebody's smiling behind the camera.
Just enjoying the pre-sunset.
Pre-sunset. We're
Well,
there.
It's gonna start soon. One of our favorite times. Watch for dolphins. Let the wind blow in your hair.
Yeah, It's right there. The dolphin is right there.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. He's so cute. We were able to get in touch with a marina that was close by, and they said they could get us in early the following week. They planned to put us up in the slings, fix the valve, and get us right back in the water. However, we didn't hear back from them that following week. When we called, they told us that their lift was broken, and the part wouldn't come for a few days. When we called back again later, they said they would get us in after they put boats from their yard into the water for the season. So we waited patiently. Yeah. While we waited to hear back from the marina, we got lots of boat projects done. So this was our old main sheet line. I can see the dark.
Core is intact.
But
Outer is pretty beat up.
this is our beautiful new main sheet. So we used our handy dandy Speedy Stitcher awl that we've had for probably 5-6 years, never used it. And we, what is this called? Splicing the lines together?
Kind of.
But we
Stitched them together.
stitched them together and melted it a little bit in hopes that we can use it as a leader line to bring our beautiful new spinnaker pole halyard or spinnaker pole line through here. Here it goes. Can you see it on there? Get it?
No.
Ah, I think I see it. Here it comes. It's so shiny compared to the other one. Bit of overkill. What did we do?
Well, you never know if there was a hang up in there. Ta-da!
So Mike and I just replaced this line. You can definitely tell which was inside the mast and which part was outside the mast in the sun and the rain. But the main reason why we had to replace it was because of this chafing. So yay for beautiful new line. Mike is polishing stainless steel. What'd you find in the cockpit locker?
It starts with cock, so it's roach.
How big was it?
It was not small.
He said it was...
Was that big?
Oh! We're not in Wisconsin anymore. Polishing the stainless gave us instant gratification. So I just went on a 4-mile trek to get groceries. Just waiting for Mike to read my texts and see that I am back and ready to get back to the boat. We need a shower as well, so he's going to come in and we're going to shower. Have a nice long hot shower right now. Our dinghy is like our minivan. It's how we get back and forth from the boat to shore and back. We've been here long enough to know what to expect from the tourist industry each afternoon and evening. The Freedom, a tall ship's schooner similar to the one we experienced that inspired us to learn how to sail. The Party Barge.
This thing makes us laugh. It's a little tiki
The
bar.
hilarious Pontoon Tiki Bar.
Goes cruising around. It always looks like it just tip over with a little wave, but that makes us smile.
And often, big shrimp boats would tie off to these pilings right behind where our boat was anchored. And one time, even a mini cruise ship came through.
Who else has that view? There are hundreds of people out there enjoying their evening. They don't have this view.
One of our favorite sights, though, is the St. Augustine skyline at night.
See, this is the kind of thing that we could make puzzles out of. Can you imagine that puzzle?
What you reading?
The Enola Holmes mysteries.
What'd you just finish?
I finished the Anne of Green Gables series.
And what else are you reading?
Little Women.
Yeah, we're about halfway through that, right?
Yeah.
Which one of the three is your favorite so far between Little Women, Enola Holmes, and Anne of Green Gables?
I don't know. I'd have to finish the...
Enola Holmes first?
Yeah.
And I want to know, how little are these women?
Happy reading!
Okay.
Phew, I can smell it already. Within 3 miles of shore, a yacht cannot flush out to sea, but requires a holding tank. Our holding tank holds about 25 gallons of waste, which is about 5 days worth of and seawater flush. So about every 5 days we need to find a pump out station to rid ourselves of our human waste. The municipal marina in St. Augustine offers free pump out for those at the dock and in moorings, but they will also come right out to your anchored boat for a minimum $5 pump out fee. Do you mind if I record a little bit? We're sharing with our family. Yeah, no, we're just sharing with our family this type of stuff.
You don't have to crush if you get a good seal. Yeah, they don't tell you about that in the yachting magazine.
Right, exactly.
Cruise the Bahamas, enjoy the life, no shoes, beer, rum drinks. Oh yeah, pump out your tank.
Yeah.
Every day we're learning so much about the various systems of our boat. Our galley has a propane stove and oven, so we carry a few propane tanks with us, which need to be refilled and rotated periodically.
So does it only work, like the full one has to be on a specific side? We have a generator on board, which we use if we haven't run the engine in a while. We use the generator if we're low on battery power or if we want hot water. So we had kind of a scare this morning. We were eating breakfast and we heard somebody yell help. And so we quick got out and looked, and right over here, a guy was fishing in his boat and had fallen out of his boat and couldn't get himself back on. But our boat friend in that boat right behind us got in his dinghy first and helped him get back inside of his boat. They ended up having to go over to the beach over there. We offered to let him come and climb up on our ladder, but I think that they were closer to the beach. So, all's well that ends well.
Our days are sometimes filled with boat jobs, and when they are, everything seems to be a mess. It's crazy to see all the hidden workings of the boat in the engine compartment and under the secret saloon seating area.
Yeah, that one's shut. So the top one is her water inlet.
Ellie has some chores aboard, which earn her extra screen time when her schooling is complete for the day.
We try to do our laundry before it becomes overwhelming. Luckily, when we buy a dinghy slip from the marina for the day, we have access to showers, laundry, and can go on a grocery run. We need to get groceries about twice a week. We have 2 fridges, one with a small freezer, and in them we can fit about 3 to 4 meals and snacks. Mike either goes while Ellie and I are schooling, or sometimes we go together. Each time we go to shore, we try to take care of as much as possible. With all the gathering and loading of bags, backpacks, and carts, bringing trash and recycling into shore, and traveling to and from a grocery store or laundromat, a run to shore usually ends up being the whole focus of our day. We are always thankful to enjoy the sunset and watch for dolphins at the end of each day. Sometimes they enjoy quite the feeding frenzy. So over the weekend we had, our dinghy was swinging really hard on the davits and something broke, of course. In all our travels so far, we didn't think to strap the dinghy tightly to the davits. We didn't realize the extent of stress to which the dinghy davits were exposed. The waves created by the weather and by boats passing had much more impact than we thought. Now, I guess we'll just have to let our dinghy trail in the water until we can get the davits welded back together. The winds are picking up, and there's supposed to be a wind event over the next few days. So to be on the safe side, we decided to get a mooring ball in the marina for the night instead of anchoring. A mooring ball is basically a ball floating in the water that is attached to the bottom, usually with concrete. We've been in St. Augustine for about 3 weeks, and we've been anchoring in that field over there by that blue boat. And it's going to be real windy tonight or tomorrow night or something, so we decided to get a mooring ball. We had to figure out how to do a mooring ball, so we just added this to our sailing arsenal. We're basically tied. Mike had to come up real slow, and I had to pick up the line with our boat hook, and then I had to tie 2 lines onto it and then bring them back to our cleat, and we're a lot closer in San Antonio than we have been. The wind event didn't really turn into anything, so we headed back to our trusty anchorage spot across from the fort. We have a great ground tackle setup, a 63-pound claw anchor with 300 feet of chain. This setup really holds our boat in place. On windy days, we have to be extra vigilant to watch for our anchor dragging and pulling the boat, as well as other boats that might be dragging their anchor and endangering other boats around them. Twice we saw this boat dragging anchor. The first time the wind pushed it into a channel marker and the channel marker broke. Now his boat seems to be wavering behind this other one. Rainy days on the boat are pretty relaxing. It's nice to sit up in the cockpit and enjoy the sights and sounds. Our lives on the boat are dictated by the weather. When it's raining, we can't really go anywhere, and we often find ourselves in different parts of the boat enjoying the solitude. I usually read, Mike likes to go on his phone, and in Ellie's case, Legos. For a while, the Florida weather pattern seemed to be sunny in the morning, thunderstorms rolling in during the afternoons. Some of them looked pretty foreboding. Often it rains pretty hard. Now that our dinghy is in the water and not able to drain itself up on the davits, another task after each rain is bailing out the dinghy.
Very windy day at St. Augustine. We're only in the teens for knots of wind, but still it's pretty windy. We've got a very short amount of water between us and where the wind's coming from, so it's not too bouncy.
But sometimes when the wind and waves are just right, it can get pretty rolly aboard. Fairer weather is always soon to follow. We decided to take advantage of the beautiful day by giving Mike a haircut. Even before we got started, though, we got a dinghy visit from sailing vessel Mystic Hearts. I had just started following their adventures on Instagram, and when we were on the mooring ball, I had been surprised when I looked out our window and recognized their boat. I had started cutting Mike's hair during COVID, and we had let it grow pretty long this time. It was a little trickier to cut and took long enough where Mike started getting a sunburn, so we had to break out the umbrella. We got tired of waiting on the other marina and took our chances on another marina. They were able to get us in right away, so we excitedly prepped to have Rogue Fun hauled out of the water. We figured since we were hauling out to fix the broken valve, we might as well get several other jobs done as well. We've been waiting on a marina for about a month, and now Mike called Oasis Marina and they're able to get us in like
Today.
So
Well, tomorrow. But
yeah. So what's broken?
it's a boat. We need a new cutlass bearing and engine realignment. We've got a raw water inlet valve that the pin that turns the ball broke off inside the housing.
Which is the main reason why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to get some plumbing lines replaced. So.
Broken stanchion. Hopefully they do.
Oh, to rebed the stanchion.
Yeah, rebed the stanchion and our dinghy davit.
Oh yeah, and
lateral
a
support.
broken dinghy davit.
Once we get that done,
And
then we can bring the dinghy in the air again.
Yeah, and once we get that done,
We might be able to.
we can leave St. Augustine. I mean,
like
it's
it
gonna.
here, but we want to go other places.
Yes, it's been great, but I think we need a change. Part of our haul out included a scraping of the bottom by Barnacle Ben, a scuba service that cleans the bottoms of boats. We spent one more night on the dock, and the next day Rogue Fun was lifted out of the water. In order to be lifted out of the water, Mike had to steer carefully into the well and over the straps. We had carefully consulted the beneteau owner's manual to ensure the proper placement of the straps that would support the boat as it was lifted out and moved to its new location.
We'll be fine.
Hauling out is always a nerve-wracking experience. This boat lift is a massive machine, capable of lifting Rogue Fun's 12 tons of weight. The lift is controlled remotely by the owner, walking along with the boat as he brings Rogue Fun to her new berth on the hard, all the way across the boatyard.
What if it falls? Yep. Makes me a little nervous too.
He was very good at controlling the lift, maneuvering expertly between all the boats and buildings. He pulled her right up to the parking space, paused, and for one heart-stopping moment, Rogue Fun swung back and forth in the slings. Once she was situated properly, they brought out a little car filled with jack stands. The jack stands will hold Rogue Fun balanced and upright while the boat work is done. We plan to still live aboard while in the yard. It will take about 8 of these jack stands, properly placed, to hold her. The jack stands are then preventatively chained together. Once they're tightened up, she's ready. We keep our fingers crossed as they release Rogue Fun from the lift. I guess this will be our view for the next couple weeks. Join us next time as we tackle some boat maintenance. We make a new discovery that creates an even longer to-do list. Our sense of smell is assaulted.
It sounds like it was good that I got out when I did.
Yeah. Trying to get the umbrellas out and like,
And I make a huge mistake.
Come on, make me feel alive.